I can't marry her
What?
because I already have a wife and I can't leave her.
Stop this wedding, the young man shouted, his voice trembling. The entire village square became silent. The bride froze. His mother smiled proudly, thinking her son had finally accepted her choice. But then he pointed at the woman standing beside him and cried, I cannot marry her because I already have a wife. The drummer stopped playing. The elder stood up in shock. His mother's calabash slipped from her hands and shattered on the ground. Nobody knew he had been hiding a secret for 2 long years. In the peaceful village of Amakuri lived a kind young man named David. David was a hard-working farmer. Every morning before sunrise, he went to his cassava and yam farm. Everyone in the village respected him because he was honest, humble, and always willing to help others. Not far from his farm lived Grace, a gentle young woman who wove beautiful baskets and sold vegetables in the village market. She was not from a rich family. She owned no land, but everyone knew she had a good heart. As the seasons passed, David and Grace became friends. Friendship slowly became love. One evening, beneath a large mango tree, David asked Grace to become his wife. With tears of joy, she said yes. According to village tradition, they quietly completed their traditional marriage before a few trusted elders and 2 close relatives. They agreed to keep it private until David had saved enough money to hold a big celebration for the whole village. But that day never came. David's mother had already made another plan. She wanted her son to marry the daughter of the richest chief in the neighboring village. If you marry her, she said proudly, our family will become one of the most respected in this land. David tried to explain, Mother, I already love someone. His mother's face became hard. You will marry the woman I have chosen. If you refuse, never call me your mother. David loved his mother, but he also loved his wife. Every day his heart felt heavier. He wanted to tell everyone the truth, yet fear kept closing his mouth. Soon, preparations filled the village. Women pounded yam, men slaughtered goats, young boys decorated the village square with colorful cloth. The talking drums echoed from morning until evening. Everyone believed David was about to marry the luckiest bride in the region. Only David knew he was living a terrible lie. Every night he lay awake, unable to sleep. On the morning of the wedding, Grace was arranging vegetables in the market when she heard 2 women talking. Have you heard? David is marrying the chief's daughter today. Grace smiled. That cannot be my husband. One of the women pointed toward the village square. The whole village is already there. Grace looked. She saw colorful decorations. She heard the drums. Then she saw David wearing his ceremonial clothes. The basket she was carrying slipped from her hands. Fresh tomatoes rolled across the dusty ground. Her heart sank. With tears streaming down her face, Grace ran as fast as she could toward the village square. The elders had already gathered. The bride sat beside David. The chief priest smiled and raised his staff. If anyone knows a reason why this marriage should not continue, before he could finish, Grace appeared at the edge of the gathering. Everyone turned. David saw her. He closed his eyes. He knew he could not hide anymore. Before anyone else could speak, David stepped forward. No! His voice echoed across the village. Silence covered the crowd. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. David turned to everyone gathered. I have lived with fear for too long. Then he faced his mother. You wanted honor, but I chose love. From inside his wrapper, he carefully removed the traditional marriage beads Grace had tied around his wrist on the day they became husband and wife. He lifted them high for everyone to see. I married Grace 2 years ago. Gasps filled the village square. The chief's daughter stepped back in disbelief. The elders looked at one another. David's mother nearly collapsed. The chief quietly stood up. This marriage cannot continue. Without another word, he gathered his family and left the village square. David's mother fell to her knees. You have brought shame upon this family, she cried. David gently helped her stand. No, mother, the shame came when I allowed fear to silence the truth. Then he walked to Grace. His eyes filled with tears. I am sorry. I should have defended you from the very beginning." Grace looked at him for a long moment. "You broke my heart, but today you finally chose the truth." Slowly, she reached for his hand. A few months later, the whole village gathered again. This time, it was to celebrate David and Grace's marriage openly. There were no lies, no secrets, only joyful dancing. Talking drums echoed through the village. Children laughed as women sang songs of blessing. Even David's mother came carrying gifts. With tears in her eyes, she embraced Grace. "My daughter, please forgive me." Grace smiled gently. A family built on love is richer than a family built on wealth. The old woman cried because she finally understood. From that day forward, she treated Grace like her own daughter, and David never again allowed fear to bury the truth. Moral of the story: a lie may seem easier today, but the truth always finds its way into the light. A family built on love will always stand stronger than one built on pride or wealth.